Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to OBooks Presents. I'm Ben Crabe, and OBooks Presents, we present interesting, informative, and cutting-edge spiritual writers from all over the mind, body, spirit world. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Today, I've got with us Rodrigo Medeiros. Did I pronounce your surname correctly?
It's perfect. Yes.
Great. Rodrigo Medeiros, who's the author of a brilliant new book with us called Paravision: The Theory and Practice of Visual Clairvoyance. And Rodrigo has been teaching psychic development, the books on psychic development and personal growth for 20 years. He created a program called the Clairvoyance Workshop, which teaches theoretical and practical exercises around psychic ability, and he's taught that all over the world, including the USA and the UK. Rodrigo is a pioneer and expert in conscientiology. I think I said that all right, which is the study. Yeah, it's kind of like the scientific study of consciousness, and he's one of the leaders of a website, an organization called Reprendentia, which is focused on conscientiology teaching, as well as loads of other body, mind, and spirit experience. Welcome, Rodrigo.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So your book it's a really thorough and rigorous kind of approach to helping people understand what psychic ability is and to learn it themselves, and practical exercises to develop it themselves. But I just want to, because you work with conscientiology and that's got its own terms and approach, I'd like to ask you really quickly, the title is The Theory and Practice of Visual Clairvoyance. Can you sort of, for the beginner, explain what you mean by visual clairvoyance? Is it like going to visit a psychic, or what do you mean by that?
Sure, of course. Yeah, I'm using the term visual clairvoyance to differentiate from the term clairvoyance, right, the more broad term. In essence, visual clairvoyance is when you perceive things, images that are not physical. You don't see those things with your physical eyes, right? But you see that with non-physical body or your extra physical bodies. And so, for example, if you see somebody else's aura, or if you see a field of energy around a plant or an object, that is visual clairvoyance, right? Or if you're talking to someone and then you have an image pops into your head, and then you can see someone that is an extra physical being, is a spirit, right? That is with this person. Then that's visual clairvoyance as well, right? Yeah. There are many manifestations for it. The key thing is the imagery, the images that come with it, either in front of you or sometimes inside of your head. Yeah. Then in the book we explore this kind of, it's a type of psychic ability.
Okay, so a type of psychic ability, and it's seeing light and energy that is not what we normally call physical. So like you said, the aura energy or consciousnesses who have left the body, who are around.
Yes, exactly. Or people that are between one life and the next, right? Because visual clairvoyance will give you access to these other dimensions, right? The extra physical dimensions, non-physical dimensions, right? You can start with the more direct and basic perceptions. They usually involve energy, right? Seeing auras is very popular. A lot of people talk about that, and some people have that kind of experience spontaneous, right? I have even heard a few people that were meditating, for example, and then they were in a very relaxed state with their eyes closed, and then they start to see colors and movement in front of them, and then they explain, and then they ask, right, what is this? And more often than not, this is the visual clairvoyance or paravision that I started to trigger spontaneously because you're relaxing.
I see. So, like you say, some people have just always been able to do it. Some people might have a one-off experience, or they might be in a deep state of meditation, and suddenly they find themselves seeing auras or seeing energy coming from people. But you're saying part of what you're teaching in the book is saying it doesn't have to be a one-off experience or something random. It's something you can develop, something you can learn to switch on and off, and that anyone can do it. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's the idea, right? And yes, you have it spontaneously, and that's great. But the idea of the book is for you to get a bit more technical about it, right? And then try to develop different types of visual clairvoyance. So if you, what I tried to do in the book was to present three things, right? A bit of theory, right? So that people can have a background, how it happens, and when it happens, what are the types of visual clairvoyance. I used many examples, right? There are dozens of examples from the workshop, and these are real people that had their own experiences, and they share those experiences, right, in the workshops. Yeah. And I also have techniques, right, on the book. So how do you do it? Step-by-step instructions for you to get there. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think you can develop if you've never had. I mean, I myself, when I started working with this, with consciousness development, with psychic development, I had no experiences at all, right? The background, my family was traditional Catholic family, right? And nobody would talk about that. I started more as a curiosity, and then and then I developed this ability from zero.
Yes. So your experience is sort of backs up, the fact that it's something that we all have to some degree, and it can be worked on and developed and encouraged.
Yes. I mean, the thing is, what happens sometimes is that I have seen people that they try one technique, but then they try once or twice, and then they say, "Oh, it doesn't work for me," which is to be expected, right? Because I couldn't find a universal technique to this day, right? We're different. We're complex consciousness. We have different physical bodies, and we have different energy bodies, different conditions in life, right? You may be more stressed, less stressed. You could have one skill that you may have the ability to relax very quickly, right? Or maybe you don't. So what I try to do in the book was to break it down, the abilities that help you to get there, right? So, for example, the ability to relax, that's one. There are other abilities, even the things that you can do with your physical vision that could help you, right? The ability to focus and defocus at will. And then you have techniques to develop clairvoyance techniques, right? And what I see that help people the most, right, is that you try different techniques, you persist a little bit, you don't try once or twice, but you try 10, you try 20 times, and you try to figure out what are the things that help you the most, right? What are the preparation techniques that help you the most, and what are the clairvoyance techniques that help you the most?
I see. So in terms of the practice, what you present in the book is a wide range of preparation techniques and a wide range of clairvoyance techniques, and what you're encouraging people to do is to try them all, try lots of different ways, and seeing what fits in with you and seeing what works for you, and also to persevere, right?
Yes, exactly. And I mean, this is about exploration, right, Ben? And I think what's fascinating about psychic ability is that sometimes you could open a door, knock on a door, or you look for an experience, and you end up having a different one, right? So yesterday I was in a workshop with a group of people working with energies, and the objective was to send energies to help, right? To help others. That was the objective. But then I ended up relaxing very much. I was lying down, and I had a sensation that I never had before, right? I started to feel like my body was going forward, right? And I could see the energies in the room. It's simple. It's a detail. It's a nuance, right? This sensation of going forward, as if I was jumping off an airplane, for example, right? It was very interesting, very rich, very vivid, and it's something that it was not exactly my intention in there. What I'm trying to say is that the more you try different techniques, you may end up experiencing different aspects of visual clairvoyance.
I see. And would you say like the experience of going forward, or suddenly that sort of shift in perception,
Mm-hmm.
which you're saying you had yesterday, and which we're kind of practicing, or you're teaching the practice of in the book. Is it kind of like tuning in to another radio frequency? Is that a good analogy, or?
Yeah, that's perfect. People use frequencies a lot, right, to talk about other dimensions. So you have your physical body. This is made of physical matter, right, cells, and there's a whole biochemical machine happening here. We have our brain, but I'm not this physical body. I am using this physical body, right? So this is the first thing. So the consciousness, me, Rodrigo, I am not the physical body, but I'm using it. But just like I have the physical body, I also have other bodies, like the energy body. And when I say energy, it means, chi, prana, organ, that concept of vitalizing energy that is all over the universe, right? But in terms of frequencies, the idea is that, okay, my physical body is in the physical dimension or in this physical frequency, right? And the energy body is on another dimension. It's not physical, so it's a different quote unquote frequency. With visual clairvoyance, you have that. You can sometimes reach one frequency or one dimension. So, for example, I could be looking at you and then start to see a bright envelope around you. So I would be seeing your energy body, right? That's one frequency. And then maybe if I relax a little bit further, or if I switch channels with my clairvoyance, then I'll start to see like an outer layer around you, your aura, which is a bit finer, right? Which is a bit more subtle.
Yeah, I see. It reminds me of because for me, like I haven't practiced and refined my work as you've done, but for the way it's happened for me is that when I gone for a walk in the country or in a big park or heath, and I guess I do start to relax a bit. There's a time when I'm able to see the energy around the trees and the bushes.
Yeah.
And that's sort of I can't instantly do it, but then but kind of what you're doing in the book is you're really working with that and practicing that. A lot of the exercises are, as well as the preparation and the relaxation, they're about working in maybe low light conditions and having somebody in front of you and sort of concentrating on that area around them and practicing that way. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, if you have someone that you can work with, this can be really helpful, right? And one of the exercises that you can do is precisely that. If you follow, there's one of the techniques in the book where you will follow the contour, right? So you'll try to look a couple of centimeters, right, or maybe an inch or two from the physical body, and then you would sit still, be very relaxed, and then you would just move. You will look at a spot here, in this imaginary line around the person, and just follow that line very slowly. Okay, so that's one technique. And of course, you want to do this kind of exercise with someone that you're close, or like a friend or a relative, and that you have trust in there, right? Because in these exercises, usually there's a lot of energy exchange, and you can have really, interesting experiences, of course, right? And you will get very close energetically to that person. So that's why a bit of discernment, right? The ability to choose is important here, right?
Yeah, and also choose the right people to work with. We mean,
Yes, that's what I mean exactly, right? It's like just like maybe you wouldn't invite anyone from the street inside of your house, right? But then, of course, if you never invite anyone into your house, then your life will be a bit lonely. You will miss out on a lot of things. So it's that balance, right? It's common sense. So that's an important thing.
Gotcha.
Okay? But then if you but there are many other ways to develop visual clairvoyance, right? Like you were saying, with plants, with objects, or even by yourself, right? You're meditating, you're relaxed, you are at home, you're lying down. You could develop visual clairvoyance like that.
But also, this is where the theory is helpful because, like you said in your example, you were talking about looking at someone and being able to see the narrow sort of energy just around the edge, and then shifting a little bit in your perception and seeing something bigger and broader and further. And the theory you go into the book is helping you like discern what the subtleties are around these experiences, right? Because so it happens to someone randomly, you'd be like, I have no idea what happened there. That was weird. But you're helping people really distinguish what they're seeing. So.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, for me, it is the theory have helped a lot to fit things into concepts, right, or to put things into boxes. Because a lot of times you could have an experience and then you wonder, what is this, right? And I got that a lot in the workshops and talking to people and in conferences in universities and so on. A lot of people say, wow, these things here that you're explaining, yes, I experienced that many times. I had no idea that this was psychic ability, and now I know. Yeah. Right. So I think trying to figuring out what happened to you. I mean, understanding past experiences is something that can be really helpful.
And all the esoteric traditions often have concepts of energy bodies and like the body level and the kind of chi level, and then there's the psychic level, and then so can you say a little bit about because you're using the framework of conscientiology, and how that fits in with how your framework and some of the language you use.
Of course, yeah. I mean, conscientiology is a new science of consciousness, right? A neo-science of consciousness. Yeah. And we like to put the word new there because there's a lot to be explored, right? It is in its infancy. But essentially, conscientiology, one of the main researchers was Valdo Vieira. He was originally from Brazil, but there are many other researchers that developed several theories around conscientiology, and today there are over 40 authors that wrote about conscientiology, right? Or took it further. The whole idea of conscientiology is to understand us as a consciousness and how we grow as a consciousness, right? So what are we doing here, right? Is there a purpose in life? And then, if we're learning, what are the things that help us the most in terms of learning, right? So how do we structure that learning? So that's conscientiology, right? So I am a consciousness, I'm not physical, I'm going to have multiple lives, and I had multiple lives before. And also as a consciousness, I have many vehicles, many bodies that I use to interact with other people and with the environment around me. So we have, of course, the physical body, the soma. We have the energy body, or energosoma. So we try to compact the words and then create this shorthand abstractions. And a lot of times it's for precision, right? I mean, we're not inventing words just to have more words, but the idea is that if you take even the word clairvoyance, for example, depending on which book you're reading, which line of thinking you're exploring, clairvoyance will mean different things, right? And you will find at least two meanings for clairvoyance. There's this broad meaning that clairvoyance equals to psychic ability. So if you're reading energy, right, then that's a lot. Some people call it clairvoyance. If you are seeing into the future, right, you're predicting the future. Some lines of thinking call it clairvoyance, right? In conscientiology, we put that on a different box. It's called precognition, right? So get information about what is likely to happen in the future. So the term clairvoyance can mean different things. So this is why I'm using paravision. So para for non-physical, vision because it's visual, it has imagery, right? But the idea is to try to structure the knowledge, to try to understand the world, and then give names to things, right?
Yeah.
But from psychic ability, but all the way to personal growth, right? There are loads of things. For instance, I can think of, I was talking to a friend a couple of days ago about coherence, right? We know things, and we know things that we like to do, right? So, for instance, there is the message right behind you there: "Be kind," right?
Yeah.
So we know that it makes sense, or we feel sometimes that this is the right thing to do, right? But then the question is to be coherent. Then, okay, now that theory has to align with practice. So, how often am I kind, right? So this is coherence. It's a characteristic of the consciousness. It can be improved. So you see, when I'm talking about this kindness and then psychic ability, a lot of times it may feel that they are different worlds, but they're not, right? There's a big connection between the two.
So conscientiology, it's not, it's not just about mapping out psychic ability. So what you're saying is getting really precise in this language, terminology, and mapping out these experiences, and scientific in your approach in terms of experimenting and practice.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying it's not disconnected from
spirituality.
From spirituality, yeah.
Yes,
part
exactly.
Of the whole thing, yeah.
It is very much spiritual, right? Because I mean, the idea is that one of the things that we're here for, right? We have a life is to learn, is to explore, and psychic ability can help us to connect with that context, right? Of course, we have a physical body. We need to work. We need to pay our bills, right? And take care of family, take care of others, take care of our children, right? So we have physical things that we have to do, but a lot of times we may get overwhelmed with those things, and periodic psychic experiences can help you to remind you and reconnect, right, with this multidimensional reality, with this process of growing, and bring this growth process to the most mundane experiences, right? You are at work, you're having a chat, you're conducting a meeting, and then it's okay. What can I learn with this, right? How are the energies around here? Is this person talking to me in this meeting? How is the aura of that individual, right? And then, so you're adding more context to it.
I see. So this practice, it's for everyone. It's not, it's not just I want to be a psychic or something, and it deepens your spiritual journey, and it helps. You're saying like your spiritual dimension brings the spiritual dimension to everything.
Yeah, absolutely, right. I mean, we're all consciousness, and we're all evolving, and we can try, of course, a number of techniques. And yes, there is there are a lot of people that dedicate their lives to psychic ability, and then they do this day in, day out. But then that could give the false impression that maybe you need a gift, or you're born with psychic ability, right? So the message here is the opposite. I mean, we can all develop psychic ability. It's an ability of the consciousness, and this can be incredibly helpful, right, in our day-to-day life.
And what's good about the book is that it's got you've been doing this for a long time, right? You've been working with people, you've been practicing, so it's got you've kind of all the trial and error and different things over the lessons you've learned over the years.
Oh yes, I've been working with conscientiology for about 20 years, a bit over 20 years now, and I think this book in particular is the summary of about 10 years of teaching a workshop, a clairvoyance workshop, right? I picked up this specific type of ability because I started to notice the impact that a clairvoyance experience could have in people, right? Because I mean, personal experience is important, right? It's good to know theory, but if you have a personal experience, it's another story, right? and you're not hearing this from others. You had that yourself. So I noticed that impact. I said, okay, I want to have a workshop to help people develop this ability, and then of course as you teach, as you interact with more people, talk to people in different countries, hear accounts, you start to see patterns, right? And that's what happened to me. Which techniques help more? Which techniques help less? How do you explain this? What are the examples? So, and then I just try to summarize this and then put this into the book.
Lovely. And what, I mean, I can think energies and auras and that kind of thing. I can, it's fit. I can kind of get it. Like I can think it sort of makes a lot of sense to me. But when we're talking about a consciousness who isn't there, or an image, what I wonder is how in your workshops and when you teach, how do you what are the pitfalls of doing it? How do you help people distinguish between what they're really seeing and maybe what could be a trick of their imagination? And
I see.
Do you have to also have to, how can you do it safely if you're dealing with other consciousnesses and that kind of thing?
All right, so maybe we have three questions.
Yeah.
So how do you differentiate from imagination?
Yeah.
Maybe the second one, how do we get to see these extra physical people, right? The people between lives. And then third, how do you do it safely, right? So there are three very rich questions. I mean, first, I think the imagination part, it's probably the easier one, right? The imagination is something that it's active. It's something that you create, right? And although it's something subtle or maybe a bit subtle, and it's inside of your head, you can learn how to switch on and off, right? So if you can see that my shirt is white, you can imagine me with a green shirt, right? If you close your eyes, it would be easier, right? And think, Rodrigo, the green shirt, and so on. Okay, got it. Yeah. But if you open your eyes, what you will see is the white shirt, right? So you see, there's something there. The imagination requires an activity from the consciousness. You're doing something. And perception, which is when you have your eyes open and you see the white shirt, that's perception. You're passive, right?
Yeah.
You can do this thing in clairvoyance. If you have your eyes open and you're relaxed and you're looking at someone else or the top of a tree and you see that bright outline, then at that point you have to ask yourself and say, okay, am I passive? Am I placing that image there, or am I just here relaxed, right, and receiving this image? So that's how you differentiate. Right? That's the idea.
You learn to distinguish between what you're conjuring up in your head and what you're receiving from the environment. That's learning that distinction.
Yes, and I think this is a perfect point where we see the connection between consciousness development or personal growth and psychic development. I think one helps the other. They walk together, because the more you know about how you think, the more you know about your intentions, right? Sometimes, I have seen that, and I have to keep an eye even on myself, because you have a lot of times that people, they really want to see. And then if they are in a social context, let's say it's a group of people, we did an exercise, and at the end I asked, so Ben, did you see something? And then you didn't see anything, but then let's say half a dozen people just reported amazing experiences. You may feel compelled to say, well, yeah, I kind of saw something. Yeah. So, and then maybe you convince yourself that you saw something. So you see, these are characteristics of the consciousness. Yeah. So the more I learn how I function, do I have this scheme in my head that if there's a half a dozen people next to me that say yes, am I compelled to say yes, or am I a more independent thinker, right? Yeah. So connections there. But that's only the first question. Yeah. Right? Yes. Yeah. If we go ahead.
So no, lovely. I really like how you spun it out. So it's sort of it's that deeper self-knowledge, isn't it? You're learning how your brain works and how you're developing your intuition, I guess, and and
Oh yeah, and the flip side there is this. Let's say you work with healing, right? Or you like to do that either as an individual or as a professional. So you like to go in and help people with energies, give them energies, and then help like that, right?
yeah,
So if you develop your psychic ability, right, then you will start to see a little bit more. So, for example, with visual clairvoyance specifically, you could see, oh, today this person that came in to receive my energy came with a second person, right?
yeah,
An extra physical being
yeah,
in there. Why? How did you see that? Well, you noticed that because the aura, instead of having that oval shape, it had a different shape, right? It kind of it looked like it was enveloping something else. So the person walked in, was a bit down, a bit sad. You know, work with energies with that person, give them energy, help them energetically, and then at the end of the session, the person, wow, you know, I feel so great, I feel light, I feel good. You look at the aura again, and now it's that oval shape.
yeah,
So you see, you're learning that your energy work is changing the extra physical companions of that person,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So all these things are connected. How you think, how the person that you're helping is thinking, the extra physical companions, right? The spirits that are connected there.
Yeah.
So the more you see, the more you'll be able to help, the more you'll be able to learn and find patterns. Right?
Lovely. And how do you stay safe, or how do you teach staying safe? Because I presume if there's an extra physical being around, they're engaged in some way, or they're possibly engaged energetically with the person or yourself. So do you have to protect yourself, or do you teach ways to keep yourself safe?
Yeah, I mean, there is. I mean, I mean, first of all, it's this is a lot about common sense, right? And a lot about discernment. So choosing what makes sense for you to do and what doesn't, right? For example, the first thing is intention. We can recognize intention, right? If you see people working with energy or doing a ritual to harm someone else, I don't want to get involved in that, right?
Yeah.
So it's common sense. I know that talking about staying safe, sometimes it can give the impression that working with energies is dangerous, and it isn't, right? It's actually more dangerous not to be aware of
Yeah.
energies, right? But we cannot mix this. It's very important to understand what is the intention, and if the group is trying to do harm, I don't want to be part of that group. So that's rule number one in terms of quote unquote safety, right?
Yeah.
So what are you trying to do? Second thing is cosmoethics, right? That's a term that we use in conscientiology to expand the idea of ethics, right? We all have a personal code of ethics. The idea is to expand that to the universe, to multiple lives, multiple dimensions. And so, for instance, if you have in that healing example, if I have a conflict of interest, right, there's something that I can say to the person that will really help that person, but it will create a bit of discomfort, right? I could be conflicted because if that's a client, and geez, you know, if I say this, maybe the person will get upset and will never come back, and then I'll lose a client, right? Now, that's a cosmoethics issue, right? And the more you are true to your values, the more you put in practice what you think is right, then the more cosmoethical you will be,
Yeah.
right? And then maybe a more simple example is you could, you know how sometimes, yes, we have the best intentions and we say nice things to people, but when they go away, we criticize mentally, right? That's another thing with cosmoethics. If we know that our energy can affect that other person, then we shouldn't be sending that energy, right? So cosmoethics is something that will help you. So the more you are looking to develop your cosmoethics and to enhance your cosmoethics, right, and to be really coherent, the easier it will be for you to, again, stay safe or connect with more advanced, with balanced, positive energies. That's the idea. And again, it's another connection with consciousness development here,
Yeah.
right? Because if you develop cosmetics you are developing yourself cosmetically. Okay. And then there's one more thing that is how you work with energies. Okay, so if you do an exercise, a clairvoyance exercise, right? There's an exercise where you're facing a technique where you're facing another person, and then you try to see that person's aura and energy. Yeah. In an exercise like that, you will naturally connect energetically with the other person, right? So it's energetic coupling and energetic connection, or auric coupling, right? The auras will fuse temporarily, and this will help. This happens naturally, right? If you have I don't know if you have, when you're talking to a friend, you're chatting for 10, 20 minutes, and then after that time, I don't know if you had that experience. Before the person says something, you know what the person will say, or your friend says, "Oh, do you know how I feel?" And then you not only know how they feel, but you feel what they feel, right? Yeah. So this is energy communication, and that kind of connection facilitates, makes it easier for you to see the auras, right, of the individual. But what's the point here? There's an energetic connection there. If it's with your friend and everybody's positive, that's great. You don't even have to worry about the disconnection process. Yeah. But if that was a day where your friend was really anxious, right, and really perturbed, and with the thoughts were 1,000 miles an hour, and you were in a position to help, right, you connected so you could help more, and you could see the energies and everything. But then maybe at the end, for your own health, you would want to disconnect. So there are exercises of energies that you can do to disconnect, right? I went on a long route, but...
No, I hear you. I hear you. Do you think then, you were giving examples of, those were examples of, things you need to good practices in staying safe. But do you think, so one of the things you're talking about practicing Paravision and the exercises in your book, and it's developing your whole self. Do you think then a natural outcome is that you can manage your energy better? So you're going to be more conscious if you're, like the example with a friend, if you're just getting worn out all the time, maybe you're over giving or over helping, or you're over energetically coupled there. Or just reading someone when you meet them where they're at energetically, and that helps you decide what to do in the situation. Like, so you're less likely to get burnt out, and you're less, or you should hopefully have a bit more consciousness and control over how you manage your energy.
Absolutely, yes. And then with visual clairvoyance, you also put another way, another tool, right, for you to understand what's happening energetically. Right, they're connected. The more you know about energy, and there are many. This is why there are many energy exercises in the book. Right, the vibrational state, when you try to disconnect with energies, because the more you understand your own energies, the more you know how to work with them, the easier it will be for you to develop visual clairvoyance. Right, and vice versa. Right, if you develop your clairvoyance, and then it's easy for you to see the aura of someone else, it will be easier for you to connect energetically as well. Right? Sometimes just attempt of seeing, when you try to see, you connect energetically.
Yeah. Lovely. And one of the strength of the book, because it goes into real depth, like you said, it's a scientific approach, putting things into boxes, and it's rigorous. And it goes into a lot of detail and subtlety in terms of these different experiences, and I think it should also will, as well as appeal to anyone who wants to develop their ability, and who likes to hear that anyone can develop their ability. I think it will also appeal to people who want something which is also very meaty and it's very rigorous as well. Where are you based at the moment, and are you teaching your clairvoyance workshop at the moment? What are you up to currently?
Well, I currently live in Fort Lauderdale. It's Florida in the United States. It's warmer, although it's winter at the time. It's like 20 degrees Celsius winter, so it's not bad.
Yeah.
But yes, I still teach the clairvoyance workshop, not only here in the US but also in Europe. I should be in Portugal in March, and then should be in the UK at some point in March as well.
Great. And do you have a website, or where can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more or learn a bit of what you're talking about?
Oh yes, you can go to www.clairvoyancebook.org, right? So clairvoyancebook.org, and you can also go to reapprendência.org. It's a non-profit organization where I volunteer. There are a number of articles both at Reapprendência and clairvoyancebook.org.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks so much for your excellent work, and I'm wishing you the very best in future teaching and exploration.
Thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate that. Nice talking to you.